We're live. Hello, everyone. I hope
Mm,
that the audio issue is sort of fixed now. I got a little mic thingy. I hope it works.
so pinky.
So, good afternoon to all of you who are joining us from India. Good morning to those of you who are joining us from the UK. Uh, I have with me Mel today. And as the banner says, we're going to talk about writing a lot today. So, Mel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mel.
Yes.
I write
Say-
a lot.
yes. See, this is why we are friends. This is why we are friends because there's so many important things to talk about. Waste that time in going blah 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 about my
Yeah.
business, my
Okay.
brand. It's like it's
I'll,
wasting
I'll, I'll
time.
be I'll be a little bit serious then. Um,
Okay.
I'm an independent researcher, an author, and a trainer to do
Okay.
with baby wearing and in arms carrying of babies and children.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, essentially, as the title implies, we're planning to talk about writing a lot. And Mel here is an expert at writing a lot. Okay, guys, I've co written two books with her and specifically know how quickly she writes and how little of her work you have to edit, meaning the writing that she has done, it's so good that minimal editing is all you have to do and it's good to go. And I have not seen this phenomenon to be a common occurrence, like someone who can write so vividly so quickly, because generally what we see is writers tend to you know internalize things and pull like melancholy scenarios where they are going, what do I write? Writer's block. What if
Mm.
my idea is not good enough, etc., 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 and they forget to write, or they write very, very slowly. So, how is it that you manage to write a lot, May?
Well, that is actually quite interesting because it hasn't always been this way for me. Um, when I wrote my first two books, they um, are non-fiction ones, and I'm so passionate about the subject, and that is the first thing. You need to be passionate about it, otherwise, yeah, you will be sitting there going, "What am I going to write?" Writer's block and all of that because it becomes a chore. But in this case, it did become a chore in some ways because of the intense research process of it all. So, having to um, be in the mindset, having the focus to dive deep and, work through all these scientific references and going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, it becomes overwhelming for me, even though it's fun. So I found writing those books quite difficult. And after the second one, I said, never again, never. If I say that I'm going to write another book, just slap me, because, like, the people who know me, who were around me at the time, just yeah. Miri will probably give you some stories, but no, then
Very, very stupid question on my part. You did end up writing more books. Did you get
yeah,
slapped?
no.
Go on, go on.
I think I just kind of like dropped the next one on everyone because that was written in 5 days, wasn't it? And
And
edited
I don't
in
think
a
you can
couple.
see the comments, but Shanti and
No,
Nada
I
are
can't see.
saying hi.
Hey. Um, but yeah, no, I guess maybe it was actually no. I suppose I was writing before then. Yeah, I think it was when I realised that um, when you write from a place of emotion, and I'm talking about true emotions, tapping into your feelings and not trying to censor your thoughts and feelings. That's where everything kind of flows for me. So it was during lockdown that a couple of friends here on Linky posted some poetry one day, and I was like, I'm going to try this, and tried my hand at it, and yeah, just kind of got sucked down that rabbit hole. And it, that was still is a very difficult time in my life, as that was maybe a week before I ended my marriage, something like that. And yeah, so lots of raw feelings been happening over the past several months, and I've just found tapping into that, I don't know, the passion and the emotion together.
So I
There,
definitely took a note of this. First tip to writing a lot is combine passion with emotion and just let go. Don't censor
yep,
your thoughts and just
mm-hmm,
let go.
yep,
It might not be the most verbose, most
mm-hmm,
prolific work to come up with, but this is going to be work that will resonate with you and some of your readers
yep,
for years to come.
yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah. It's that, and that was something that had puzzled me for a while when you know, obviously with us co-authoring the books, these are real life things. It's just recounting real life stories, so that's simple enough for me because it's just blah blah blah, and just trying not to censor it, just being honest about, you know, thoughts and feelings and stuff. um, and but then you know, I've got multiple writing projects going on in the background. I'm like, which one, I don't know which one to prioritize. But with each one, I find when I go into it, I'm asking myself, where where's the writer's block? You know, where is the struggle with the actual writing? I'm not saying that it's completely easy at all, far from it. So things like, you know, structure and plot lines and all of these kinds of things, those are the more difficult things for me. But just the brain dumping,
Mm.
I've found, at least for me, it's that spot that all the words come from. And then you can
Yes.
edit it down and be like, no, maybe I don't want to say that. But, you know, if you're coming from a place of, what's the word? Excess, I
Vulnerability.
suppose, or whatever. Yeah, and vulnerability. But, you know, just letting everything out, then you can scale it back to what you want to actually publish. But I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
mean,
getting over that fear of yourself.
Stephen King said something. I'm reading his book on writing right now, and he said this, which kind of pissed me off for a second, which is writing is human, editing is divine. But based, based on what you just said, I do realize editing is divine because you have basically, as you said, you have put yourself on the paper as
Mm,
is, as a writer, and
hmm.
then now you have to refine it as a
Yes.
reader, like something that someone would
Hmm.
like to read, someone would like to share, someone would like to relate to.
Yeah.
And that is an astronomical task. So, yeah.
As we well know.
I know. Yes, I know, I know. We're still learning, I mean. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this thing that you told me, because again, I have had so many people to ask me uh, in person on Instagram chats or on LinkedIn PMs,
Hmm.
how do you end up, coming up with such diverse topics of discussion? And this is something that I think you have as well, which is you can, talk about literally anything and turn it into some kind of a hashtag, a very funny hashtag, or poem, or prose, or like we were talking about animals, and you came up with an entire concept around that, which was amazing.
Did I? What?
I mean,
Refresh my memory.
can't really blab out loud, but I'm talking about the
Ah,
animals being funny. Yeah. So essentially, how do you manage to do that? How do you manage to kind of link, say, very vague or very broad topics and bring them into like a neat bundle the way that you do?
I'm just like, do I? Do I?
You do.
um,
I mean, see, you
I
took very, very random stories that came from five very random authors.
mm.
You made them work together. Okay, that was you. You were the one who arranged
And you?
everything. I
It's
was
not
the
all
one who
me.
helped you with the
Seriously.
editing. I didn't arrange. See, that is the question why I'm asking you this
Oh,
question is
okay.
you have a way of finding sequence in things, or finding the
Yes.
commonality of things, or finding a
That
way in which things kind of just flow. So do you have any advice or any tips on how people could do that? Because genuinely that's such a fabulous skill,
mm,
if you ask me.
I I'm really sorry, but no, because it's literally the way my brain is wired.
Oh, and you are just
um,
thinking this is something we could learn.
no, I don't know. Like you said, it's seeing patterns in things and sequences, and um, I don't know. I guess it's difficult to explain when it's just kind of the way that your brain kind of works and recognizes things. But I would say, to explain that is to look for patterns, look for common threads and things, and yeah, then weave them together.
So have clear
Yes,
intention with
yeah.
what your end product needs to be, and like specifically look for it. Like this is what I want, and this is how I, go for it.
Yeah, I think having an idea of what the end product may look like does help, but also I think you have to be willing to have some kind of flexibility as well, which is very difficult for my brain. If I've decided on something, then change just. But I'm learning to deal with that better, and yeah, I mean, I think I think the Fictember challenge thingy has been very, very interesting, with with some things to do with that, and just literally just being like, um, you may have an idea of the end result, but if you focus too specifically on this defined, end product, you're literally limiting yourself in so many ways. You're literally closing off your mind and your writing and everything to a whole host of other opportunities, and just having that openness and willingness to, just be like, okay, we'll think about this, and yeah, because things do change, and yeah,
Yes.
sometimes very much for the better.
I mean, I have read so many authors, specifically in fiction, who said this that they mostly write with the end and the beginning pre-decided, but then they start writing, and then
Yeah,
somehow their characters tell them that this is not how my story ends,
yeah,
and their ending
yeah.
changes. So I
I
think what
think
you're saying makes
that
a
is
lot
the
of sense.
biggest thing for me with the with going into fiction writing, is that um my, like, going into it, I'm thinking, okay, so I need to do things this way, this way, this way, this way, because that's how you're supposed to do it. um but then I feel like it kind of confines me in some ways, and that maybe there are other processes and ways of doing things that work better for certain people, certain minds and stuff. Because with the fiction writing, I mean, with non-fiction, yeah, it's so much easier to have a very clear, specific structure, and this goes here, this goes there. But yeah, I'm very, very new to the fiction stuff. I mean, I used to write so much as a kid, and yeah, always got really good marks in English and creativity and writing and stuff like that. But even then, I remember just feeling like, okay, but why should it be this way that I have to write this? You're doing it in terms of how you're being told you should be writing. So yeah, it's an interesting process starting to write fiction and just kind of winging it as I go along, trying to learn the processes and stuff, and hope that there will eventually be some kind of readable result. But I'm loving the Fictember stuff because it's just like, just anything and everything just gets thrown there into the prompts. So much fun. It's just
See,
like my daily, like, oh, what's it gonna be
the
today?
reason why me and Rashmi came up with it in the first place was, if we were alone, like if we are just doing it, I'm going to write one paragraph every day, and there is no element of that peer pressure put in that
Yes.
it has to go live somewhere, or whatever.
Yeah.
We would have given up on it from day two, because
Mhm.
there's work to do at home, there's work to do for clients, there's
Yeah.
TV series to watch, there's books to read.
I still haven't carried on watching Devs. Oh my god.
It's okay. See, devs is something you should watch with like a full mental capabilities in place, because that, the writing
Unscrewed
and
then.
the existential crisis that it brings on, it's like, I wish I was not busy when I watch this, so I can
Uh,
properly contemplate this.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love
So,
that whole existential crisis stuff. Yeah.
I
Love it.
mean, the people from Black Mirror, that was so fascinating is, they were going to launch a new season, and they stopped because of the pandemic lockdowns, because they
Right.
were like, people are going to watch it
Uh,
and cry.
I'd be like, there's not enough distraction to like stop and go. Yeah. I hadn't heard about that, but yeah, makes sense.
So, coming back to where we digressed essentially, uh,
Yeah, we
what
do
you were
this.
saying, how we do this all the time. You essentially told us that, don't close yourself off to ideas.
Yeah,
Even when
I
you
think.
have like a set open end goal in mind,
Yep.
don't be very, very, don't put like a hard
It's
on rule on yourself that,
Yeah, basically it can be very difficult not to attach expectations to outcomes. But I think that is a key thing, especially in terms of oh, look at me, like I'm gonna say this and I'm thinking, you can say this like you actually know something about it and you don't. I was gonna say, like, especially when it comes to character development and stuff, if you've got this idea of this character and that character, and you've planned, you've come up with characteristics, you've got life events and stuff that have molded this character. I've found, and I'm pretty sure I've heard this said a lot as well, that when you're writing characters, they can tend to take on a life of their own and kind of start writing themselves. And I don't know, my gut says that if you are so attached to a specific, way that they're going to go, or who they are, or even how the story is going to go, then you're you're stifling your creativity.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
completely
just
agree with that.
go with it.
And to this, I would like the readers to know that this is a real thing that happened. Okay, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning, my time, Indian Standard Time, and I don't know what that is for your time, but essentially it's very late in the night for her. And we both started talking about aliens,
Yeah,
and that carried on till 8:30 in the morning my time, and we were still not done. We were still not on the same page that aliens could be like this or aliens could be like that. And she had a
mm,
picture in mind, I had a picture in my mind, and we're going blah 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 blah. And we did end up changing each other's perception a little bit
yeah, yeah,
on certain key elements. And then we had Nada come in with her theories about, the exoskeleton and all that. And it's like,
yeah,
didn't consider that, have to
yeah.
consider that. And if you
And
are
that's
writing,
it. You can't have rigid thinking, and it's that conversation just was wonderful because it wasn't like right. We both had these. It's going to be this. It was like, but have you considered it? And then you'd be like, oh, but then blah, 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 and it just yeah, could literally talk for days, weeks, months, non-stop.
exactly. And if what you are essentially telling us is, if you have pre-decided on something about your book, even if it's a non-fiction book, like this is
Hmm.
what my future is going to be. Say, for instance, if it is a non-fiction, or if
Yeah.
it's a fiction, this is what my character's future is going to be.
Yep.
What that takes away from the entire narrative is possibilities of what you
Exactly.
or your character could be.
Yep.
And as a writer, you should avoid that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think in hindsight, I may have had some preparation via the review paper that I co-authored, which was published recently, to do with the evolution of carrying babies and children as a species, from before slings were invented and stuff. And, there we had sort of certain ideas and stuff, but if I had written, my parts specific to the carrying side of things, if I had written those with, right, it's going to be like this, then it would not have been the paper that it turned out to be. And just this, yeah, it's the going down the rabbit holes and being like, oh well, yeah, that's another thing. It's I think if you don't like being proved wrong, that can be really difficult, even if it's proving yourself wrong. Whereas with my work in that area, I'm so passionate about the subject that I've literally even said on social media that I hope that people will prove me wrong at some point, in various, hopefully not completely, but, certain parts of it or whatever, they're like, oh, but hang on, had you considered this? And then it encourages growth, having this very much like I must be right and it must be this way. It just there isn't progress, and I think the same can be um, applied to fiction writing as well. The principles are the same. I think, if that makes
Yes,
any
yes.
sense at all.
It does make sense. And for those of you of like not those of you, she has written a paper called Carrying Human Infants and Evolutionary Heritage, right? And some of the insights that the paper presents, like if you are into uh, looking into the history of sapiens and how we came up to do certain things the way that we do, this paper is pretty amazing. So I'm gonna leave a banner here highlighting the name of the paper. So in
Thank
case
you.
you guys are interested, you should definitely check it out. And like, this is not me kind of doing just a casual statement for my guest. It is me being a nerd, me genuinely had my mind blown, and I'm actually like
Oh,
planning to write an article
thank you.
on some of the things that she has presented as well, because that is what ideas are supposed to do. When you read something,
Mm,
they are supposed to tickle your brain in the
yeah.
back, in the front, in the
Hmm.
side,
And
and it
do
is.
you know do you know what I was going to say? It's actually really funny when I think about it, because that's to do with um, a certain side of my work. And funnily enough, actually, I can't believe that I didn't say this before I was asked to co-author the paper. I was very much against, like, I was like, no, I don't want to know about the past. I'm focusing on the here and now. We've deviated too much from the biological norm with all of our inventions. I'm stuck in the here and now. And then my colleague invited me in on it, and I had been having some kind of like, oh, this appears to be too coincidental about, evolution of the species and stuff. Um, so I really went down that rabbit hole and never thought that that would be, anything of interest to me. But then coming to the future, sort of in recent months, that that work has prepared. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit blocked up. That work prepared my mind for then going down a rabbit hole to do with the brain and the body, and how out of sync the evolution of the mind and the body appear to be. And that's kind of where I'm at the moment with that, and just going into a lot of um, existential crisis and
I mean, same.
evolution
Your
stuff.
your your thought processes are kind of carry into your paper as well, because uh, essentially, when you compare the things that you have found out with like all the evidence that you are finding about humans technically turning into cybernetic collectives, because we don't see our phone and we freak out, like we have
Yeah,
a full-on physical response
yep,
telling us how the body, the brain, and the technology, they are on three completely different levels.
yep.
And when you read
We're
a paper
completely
like
out of
yours,
sync. Yep,
it becomes very apparent. And for a brief second, you're like, what did I
yep,
just think now? And I
yeah,
think that is what scientific papers are originally supposed to do. They are supposed to
yeah,
question the conventional line of thought, and not what unfortunately scientific papers have mostly been about. Like, I think
yeah,
with science, one problem that I find these days is, back in the day of the Royal British Academy of Sciences, and what they used to do was they used to look at a phenomena, and they used to go, oh, let me investigate it, and then
yeah,
based on my observations, make inferences and draw some conclusion if available,
yeah,
and that was the study.
yeah. And
Nowadays it's like
this
they
was how my
are.
naivety. This is how I entered into this as an independent researcher. My knowledge and experience and all of that, most of it is self-taught. And I had that kind of like, oh, yes, I'm going right into, the community and with professionals and stuff who want to advance knowledge. And it was like, yeah, the complete opposite. And I was just like, we're screwed. We're screwed. If even the sciences, just like, no, let's just calm down. Let's stay where we are. Yeah, but yeah, I was going to say something and I've completely forgotten what it was, and it was something interesting. So that's annoying, but maybe it'll come back
You're
later.
going to recall it. Have faith. This has happened many times before when
Yes.
we have talked. So, yeah, essentially, the scientific field could be a great metaphor for the point that you just make, which is
Mm.
if you go into something with a conclusion in mind, you're going to cherry pick your way through
Yes, yeah.
available
Oh,
ideologies,
absolutely. Yep. Hmm.
and that is only going to hurt your book, your article, your
Exactly.
scientific paper, whatever. It's going
Yep.
to hurt you more than it hurts your readers or whoever
Oh,
it is that is
absolutely.
accessing the book.
Because it's keeping yourself stagnant as well. It's like you
Mhm.
need things that challenge your beliefs, your perceptions, and everything to actually, like my brain needs fuel. It needs intellectual stimulation and stuff. It's something I realized quite difficultly um, during, in the past months, that is a basic need. I need intellectual stimulation just to function, and I think that's where my natural tendency to be very rigid and needing everything defined and a clear path has been relaxed by the more the more my brain is challenged, the more I have to let go, the more I have to be open to being wrong, and other people's perspectives and stuff. But it just makes life so much more interesting. And um, I remembered what I was going to say. What you said about the whole Black Mirror thing, and the reason for not showing the new series, or was it showing it or filming it? I can't remember. During this time when we have so much time to actually stop and think. Um, I think that really taps into what I was trying to get across about how it feels like our minds have evolved at a much more rapid rate than our bodies, and it feels like there's this kind of internal struggle for some people, at least, to it just feels like the human body is just very cumbersome and annoying at times, and I think that you probably will understand this, at least to some extent, because insomnia, for example, it's just literally like the brain is like, yep, I know. The brain is going, we don't need sleep. We need to, be awake and create and do things. So, sometimes it'll let you have just enough to get by on, but no more, no more. It's like we need to be thinking, active, creating. Yeah. So yeah, it feels all
See,
out of
that
sync.
brain does have advantages, right? The disadvantage is
Oh yeah,
we
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like humanity has let us down. The advantage is you keep having a very active
Mm,
sort of like I honestly, I know I'm being very arrogant when I say this. I have never had writer's block as a problem, like never. And I've been writing professionally for 9 years, and like
wow.
as a paying profession, 5 years. So
Mm,
uh, that's
that's a
nine
long
years of
time.
it's
Yeah.
no writer's block so far, and I think the secret to that is a brain that goes, "Weren't you writing about this? Weren't you writing about this?" Nag.
Yeah. But
While the
that,
body
see,
is
I
going,
think,
sleep.
yeah, I think when it comes to, um, I don't know, I suppose people with brains like ours as well. Um, yeah, no, it definitely can, has with me. I think that the whole putting pressure on yourself to write X amount of words or whatever, or to work on a specific chapter and stuff. Like, for example, I don't write anything in the order that it will end up in. It's just here, there, and everywhere, and then it all has to be threaded together. But the whole sort of, this is how it should be done. You know, I'm going to sit at a desk and write for X amount of hours or X amount of words. That literally stifles creativity, in my opinion, because then you're just writing for the sake of writing, you know? And I found myself getting into that sort of thing with my first books, which then gave me writer's block. You know what I mean? Because this whole thing with writing for me is that it can be very difficult when everything is in my head and I need to get it out through my fingers. There is sometimes sort of a fault in the connection. It's just like, it can't type. Yeah. Yeah. Very
So
interesting.
to add on to the thing that Mel just said, which is about not continuing writing as a sequence or as I have to write 5,000 words each day or whatever,
Yeah.
uh, that could be detrimental. And instead, what you could do is if you could just focus on writing and say, for
Yeah.
instance, you suddenly felt like I want to write on chapter 3 before I finish chapter 2, go for it.
Yeah.
And something that you can use for that, I'm going to leave a banner here, is there's this software called YWriter. Okay, this is a software that was recommended by Rashmi Agarwal. And essentially what the software does is it lets you arrange things without actually arranging things, as in you can just marginalize your chapters accordingly, characters
Yeah.
separately, scenes, you know, and you feel like I want to describe the weird random planet today, you can go and set that scene. I want to
Yeah.
describe character A today, that's what you describe. I want to write chapter 9 before I write chapter 1, go for it.
Yeah.
So
I've
thankfully,
downloaded it. I
I'll,
haven't gotten into it properly yet, but yeah,
no, I'll
it does
definitely
look
help you through it
amazing.
because it
Yeah.
helped me as well, because I am mostly a ghostwriter for books. That is
Mm.
my professionally, that takes a major chunk of my time, and I've
Yeah.
got multiple client books running simultaneously in the background. So one book
Yeah.
has heavy satire, another one is dealing with like a pseudoscience. Then
Yeah.
there's another one that has hardcore science, like statistics actually, not science. So for me, I have to separate all this and
Yeah.
work all of these individual bits together in like a
That's like
6 months to 12
incredible to
months.
me that your mind can
My
do that.
mind was having immense difficulties doing that, because there is a disconnect, because how do I jump from satire to
Yeah.
statistics?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But then with a
Yeah.
software like this, with the advantage of living in 21st century, is we have technology, and we
Yeah.
can use these different softwares to kind of trick ourselves into that headspace. So that's what I'm
Yeah, it's
doing.
like me with lists. I have to write stuff down to have any hope of my brain being able to, you know,
Yeah.
sequence it and stuff. But something that I was going to say before, when what was it? What were you saying about writing? And I was saying writing out of order and stuff. Another thing I think is really, really, really important that maybe tends to get put to the sidelines is, you know, if you're like, right, I'm writing this book or whatever, or this article, then it's just like, right, that has to be the focus. But when it comes to writing and improving as a writer and just literally actually getting some writing done, it doesn't have to be the thing that you're meant to be working on right now. You know, there are so many ways that you can write and create um, that it's not necessarily a waste of time. You know, I think, you know, if you're thinking, right, I've got this deadline for whatever, and I don't know if other people's brains are like mine. I'm absolutely rubbish when it comes to deadlines. No matter how much time I have, it will always get left until the last minute because I need that pressure. And yeah, but I found that I am actually able to write stuff without a deadline as long as I don't. And it comes again, not narrowing um, my writing, just being open to writing about anything and everything. And like, for example, with the Fictember, I didn't know that was coming up, and I love it. And it's,
Same
you know,
here.
yeah.
It came
And it's
from a
just like,
lonely place
wow.
of all things.
Yeah. So like, I think I've written anything between 2 words and 350 or so words for the prompts during that. And it's just, you know, creativity inspires creativity. And that's what I really like about the fact that it's microfiction as well, you know? It's brain food, and you know, if you're nourishing your writing skills or whatever, I can't think of the right word, then it's going to naturally impact on the stuff that you're meant to be doing, you know?
I
So yeah, I don't
completely
think that any
understand.
writing is a waste of time.
Oh, hell
It's
yes.
all improvement, all practice, everything.
That's what, right? The unfortunate aspect, I think one of the main reasons I got these live certifications in the first place was I was so ticked off at what was being paraded as writing online.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this is not writing, this is clickbaiting. You're teaching people to clickbait. And
yeah,
that's okay. That no point in judging that, because technically you need writing skills to
yeah,
clickbait people as well. But
yep,
that's not the only form of writing. You know, when
yeah,
people say only use the active voice or only use
yeah,
this, like, you totally miss the point of writing if you use that word. Only do this, because when you
yes,
only do this, you are essentially recreating something. You're not creating
yeah,
something.
exactly.
you
You're
you
stifling
come
your
up with some
creativity.
stupid formula of
Yeah,
recreating the same sort of thing which will give you clicks and all of that, no
yeah,
doubt. But
but it's
at
not
the end of the
original.
day, it's not original, and it
Yeah,
stifles creativity, and you're going to have
yep.
a quarter life crisis, which is something a lot of people are having, like having a midlife crisis by age 25. So essentially, to if you are in the arts, and again, I don't mean in the poetic sense, but in the sense of, if you are in the arts as a field, as a creator,
Yeah,
you have to be willing to be a creator. You can't just keep on, just flinging shit out and
yeah. Well,
so
I think it can be really difficult as well, in
of
terms of
course.
what the majority expect from you and the rules that other people try to impose on you and your writing. And you know that this is tapping into my feelings about traditional publishing,
That's a moment of
editing
mine.
structures and stuff. That's
Oh my
like,
god.
yeah.
Okay, so this is
It's like,
something which
why does it need to be like everybody else's thing? How is that going to sell more copies? You know?
essentially, with the reason why the self-publishing thing has picked up so much, there are like three main reasons. One reason is it is very easy, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a proper marketing strategy in place, you can maybe earn more than you would from a book advance under traditional publishing. That is reason number one. Reason number two is self-publishing on Amazon could actually, or on any other platform, could actually be a great lead magnet for your websites. So you
Yep.
can, kind of be like, I am combining my posts, or I am combining my writing insights into a free ebook or a paid ebook,
Yeah.
which you can download from my website. Where
Yep.
when you go there, you have to put your email ID and stuff, and essentially that's a lead magnet. You are helping
Yeah.
someone generate sort of a following, so to speak. Nothing wrong with that. That is reason number two. This is why influencers are very frequently come up with books. It helps them.
Yeah.
And the third reason is creators get rejected a lot in traditional publishing, because essentially creators will create. Okay, and we are not
Yeah.
talking about successful people, we're talking about people who had some unique idea.
Mm,
They kind of interpreted the unique idea, and then they went to these different publishing houses and they presented it. And
mm.
the MBA with no experience in writing is going to tell you this is not how
Yep.
writing works and stuff like that, and they're going to
Yeah.
reject your book.
Yep.
And you're going to go through that 500 more times, and
Yeah.
finally you're like, God, I'm tired, and then you
Yeah.
self-publish. So these
Because
are
the
the
thing is,
three.
you need to find a way, your own writing style and your way of doing it that aligns with you. Because if you're doing it the way that somebody else is saying, that's where all the writer's block comes in, and just not being able to write what you know that you have potential to. So yeah, it's just
it's it's
yeah,
it's a it's
it's
a very
difficult.
very it's a very, it's a very murky topic, and we can go into
Yes,
that if people are interested, because traditional publishing versus self-publishing versus getting those publishing houses that print your books at your expense, and then
yeah,
you are the one who has to sell it. These are three ways in which you could become like a writer.
yeah,
And none of these three ways are wrong, and none of these three ways are right. Like when we say 100% the way to go, because each has its unfortunate pitfalls. And with traditional publishing, I
yeah,
think oftentimes creativity is the one that goes on the axe, because they'll be like, you can't have this in a book, or
mm,
you have to have this in a book,
mm,
or you have to do this, do that,
yeah,
arrange it like this, use this font, not do this, etc., etc., etc.
yeah,
And while the publishing houses, they come from a good place of they want the book to sell more.
yeah,
What unfortunately ends up happening is that creates a feedback loop, which kind of keeps creating the same kind of books. So
yeah.
if you
It's
look at
it's it's
horror.
yeah. It's like if you think about just business in general, if you're doing the same as everybody else, how are you meant to be a great success if you're specifically speaking to a certain type of person or certain types of people? Then they're going to really like latch onto it and be like, yes, this is brilliant. And as a side effect, you still get other people who are like, yeah, actually, I really like that. Maybe not as passionately as the others, but yeah, it's just annoying to me because it's
Yeah,
logical in my mind, and people are too illogical for me.
that is what, no, this is why I didn't get an MBA, to be honest. I
Yeah,
qualified for a college, and then a very good college actually, and I went there, saw the curriculum, and it was like
yeah,
they are not teaching you industry specific jobs. They are just teaching you how to be business executives.
yeah,
So as a business executive, I'll get out, I can join TV, I can join uh, writing, like the writing industry,
yeah,
or I can join like a tech company, or I can join, essentially with my degree I can join any of these random fields,
yep,
and just based on my tag I'll get that job.
yeah.
And because I
It's
don't have
ridiculous.
any core experience in the field that I'm joining, I will mostly be taking business decisions. We can't really
Yeah,
blame them for this, because again, that's the way the world works, that's the way the cookie crumbles, so you're going to have to let
yeah.
it
Well, it
go.
needs it needs to change. We shouldn't
But
be just accepting it.
who see, that is we shouldn't be accepting it, but for that you need, like, revolutions.
Uh huh.
And
Yep.
for that people need to have means in which they could survive. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, You need a house, you need food, you need
Absolutely.
clothes.
But
And to
that
get
that
that, you
isn't to
have to
say that you can't do the small things that chip away over a long enough period of time. It's not saying, right, you need to have a martyr or martyrs or anything, um, and people who are, like, devoting life to, the revolution that is writing. I think it's just chipping away at it, saying, no, no, that specific thing,
you know,
I'm not moving on that, It's not
I
saying,
mean,
right, it has to be all my way, just
see,
doing. I mean, like, for
I am
example,
rebelling.
just the self-publishing for me, the self-publishing was an act of rebellion in and of itself, because the stuff that I discovered and I was teaching and passionate about, nobody wanted to know. And I was like, when you write a book about something, then people start listening. So I did. And that's what, started the whatever it is. My brain's gone blank. But yeah, and now there are tons of people interested um, in, England, Sweden, Denmark, rest of Europe, and even further afield. So, there are things that we can do. There are things
Definitely,
within our
that's what,
power.
right? Little acts of rebellion.
Yes.
And if that little act of rebellion resonates with people, well and good. If
Yep.
not, you continue powering through. That's essentially
Yep.
that's the decision I made, because we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. That
No,
literally not
exactly.
how it works.
No. And
So
that's like with our books, our co-authored ones, why it was so important for us to keep each other's individual voices. Because where do you get that? Where do you actually truly get that? It's like, oh, this
exactly.
genre must sound like this sort of thing, and that's what I really, really struggled with the review paper. It was like everything must be stuffy and boring, and oh, we're very, educated and scientific. We must make this sound as boring as possible, so we sound as intelligent as possible. And it's like, you lose like the countless amount of papers that I've had to be like matchsticks, like you must like get through this to get to the content that you need, and it's just torturous. And it's like, and for
I
what,
totally
for
understand.
just, oh yes, so then we look like, professional. And it's like, professional comes in so many different forms, but there's just like this
Exactly.
narrow mindset. Anyway, yeah, I'll get
That's
off my
what
soapbox.
the priorities of the industry have changed. Writing is just like a minuscule aspect of what has
Mm,
been on the chopping block when we talk about how almost every company is creating content. Okay,
yeah.
like look at the website copies of all the popular websites. Lies,
Mm.
lies, 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 some more lies, and here's one more lie. So that is that is it, right? And
Yeah.
somebody is enabling it, people
Mhm.
write it, and
Yep.
that is how it gets published, and there is no rebellion on that front
Mm.
from any side. And
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this previously, and like no point, I'll mention it again. I used to work, and I still do, in healthcare. And the first and the last time I did this was for a company that was importing very suspect products into India. And this is not approved medication,
Right.
herbal medication that
Yeah.
people were going to consume, okay,
Right.
along with their allopathic medication. Now, the thing with herbs is herbs tend to interfere with
Interact.
allopathy,
Yep. Yep.
especially when there's adulteration involved. Now, again, the reason why I say first, I helped write them, I helped write their product descriptions, and it absolutely killed me because essentially you are helping, right? You are helping them
Yeah.
sell this product by
Yeah.
making their product appear persuasive. And that's the
Mm.
first and the last time I did it, because I needed the money. I was just starting out. This was
Mm,
5 years ago. First
yeah.
client I had. And I was like, hell no,
Your biggest lesson.
I'd rather be hella poor than do this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
lie out loud.
No,
Just,
that is the thing. It's where do you draw the line? Like you have to have a point where it's like, no, no. Yeah.
I had a client, I'm not even kidding. I had a prospect who approached me and they wanted something written for healthy babies with proper dental alignments to get braces done so that their teeth come out pretty. Babies with braces, healthy babies,
Babies.
exactly, like
What?
little kids,
Those that
toddlers.
what that
I know,
that
right?
their milk teeth.
I
What?
know. And this is a product that is in the
Oh my
market. Okay.
god.
This
No
was something
way.
that, yeah, this was per article. The guy was willing to
I
pay
shouldn't be laughing
$500.
because that is actually horrific when you think
It
about it.
was
But
horrific because when I saw that requirement, I was like, you want to perform surgery on a kid that the kid does not need because that's its milk teeth,
yeah.
just because you want to make some money. Like me as a writer will make money of this, and the orthodontist as an orthodontist will make money of this. So these are questions we have to. Obviously, I didn't take the job, but somebody
Thank
took the
goodness.
job because I stalked that client,
Yeah.
and that article went up. Somebody took it up. Exactly.
Wow.
So what we don't realize as writers is very innocuous, very harmless decisions that we make
Mm,
actually enable a lot of bad things online, and there is
yep.
no
True.
accountability for that, and you can't even point it out, because if you do end up pointing it out, what happens is you get labeled immediately. This one is
Mm,
salty, this one is jealous, etc., etc. And it's like,
yeah.
fine, the salty, jealous people who want to do ethical work. Is that really such a big
Yeah.
ask?
I know, right?
It is a big ask because when I mention I do not lie, in the reply of the prospect emails and stuff like
Yeah.
that, there are many people who get offended. I'm like, you shouldn't be offended as a product or service provider. You are not
Yeah.
supposed to lie to your customers because at some
Yeah.
point they will figure it out that you're lying.
Mhm.
But that's not a priority for many people,
Truth
and
hurts, doesn't it?
yeah, God, it hurts so much. But yeah, I think one of the why this had to become a topic that was spoken about is if you want to write a lot, you have to be able to like writing. If you're going to detest
Yes.
writing based on the
What's
jobs
the
you
point?
take up,
Yeah.
you're, you're,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to write a lot.
No.
It's impossible.
It will kill your creativity and your passion. Yep.
Yeah,
Very true.
exactly. So I think
Yeah.
that's where you get like personally why you are able to, I think, write a lot is, as you mentioned initially, you're very passionate about the things you write about, and because of that passion you allow yourself to go down these rabbit holes, you allow yourself to be checked, you allow yourself to be proven wrong, and that is
Yep.
fascinating.
Mhm.
So amazing. We went on for 58 minutes, by the way, and I still have questions for you. So, can we continue, or do you have
Absolutely.
work
Yeah.
or something?
Yes.
No? Great.
I've blocked
So,
out the morning for you. I figured it would go long.
yeah, yeah, same, same. So, essentially, other question I had for you is editing, because you're better at it than I
Oh
am. Video
no,
editing. I'm good at
no. I
grammar
think I
editing.
think you're better than me at editing, hands
I'm good
down.
at grammar editing, but I'm not good at editing. Like, editing requires tough decisions. This absolutely
I
cannot go here. And you say this, and I stop you from editing. Don't please, you'll feel bad. Stuff like that. With the Indian bob to go along with it, making it more convincing. But essentially, yeah, you are very good at finding out what goes and what doesn't go. So how do you do it? Is there like a specific way besides the thing that you mentioned, which is you find patterns? Is there something else that tells you that this works in the context and this doesn't?
I'm having trouble not understanding it, but I think I need you to give me an example for my brain to work from,
Okay.
because it
Okay.
feels too
So
generalized.
yes,
Because
yes. Okay.
in my mind, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a
I
bit of a dodgy
understand.
editor. So, like,
So
if you tell me
essentially, one
specifically,
of the okay, without taking names, one of the stories that we were editing had a lot of cultural context, like a lot of it,
mm,
right? And other than like people who live in the North Sentinel Islands, completely out of the loop with human society, I think everyone is aware of certain cultural traditions
mm,
that happen in every country. Like broadly, you know, this is how Americans behave,
mm,
or broadly, you
yeah,
know, this is how Europeans behave, or this is how Indians behave, or this is how Japanese people or Chinese people behave.
mm,
This is what I mean, like broad cultural definitions. This is something that everybody knows.
yeah,
And one of the stories had that explained a lot, right?
mm,
And you wanted to remove it, but I didn't. And so at the end of it, while rereading the book, I realized you were right, I was wrong. That had to go. So how do you make these decisions? How do you make these editing decisions that this is not proper in context of a book?
um, okay, so one thing that I would say is um, you can feel as a reader and an editor, obviously, um, when something, I don't know how to put this into the right words, so I might say it wrong. Uh, when something feels like filler, does that make sense?
Yes, got it.
Writing for the sake
Word
of
count.
writing to bump up um, the word count or the size of the book.
Got it.
Like
Got it.
with even with my non-fiction books, I made that mistake in the beginning. I was like, right, okay, look up how long they should be and then aim for that kind of range. But then I found myself going, oh, well, this chapter isn't as long as I expected. Oh, how can I pad it out? And then going back in the editing process and going, delete, delete, delete,
Mm.
it messes with the user experience, as clinical as that sounds. And I don't know, I detect changes in tone in writing in the way that you would in conversation. Um, I don't know, and
Interesting.
it is again coming back down to patterns and just feeling what feels right and what doesn't. Um, but yeah, I think some things just really mess with the flow, um, and this is again where you end up with writer's block and stuff like this, when you're like, okay, so this chapter needs to be this long, when actually it only needs to be X amount long. It's literally just going back to quality over quantity.
Mm.
And what was it? The comment that I posted on one of the microfiction things saying the story is done when the story is done, whether it's
Yeah,
going over the word count or
glue.
way under it, kind of thing.
The one
Yeah.
where you use the glue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, exactly, exactly. In context, that was the most amazing and on point microfiction. That was, I think, 3 words
I,
and two
I,
space bars.
I literally wrote, yeah, I was, when it just came into my head and I was like, ah, and I dedicate this to Benati. Because
Because
you are the
I
only
have,
one who will actually get what it means.
yeah, because I spent 47 hours on reading the thing that that reference was about. So yeah, exactly. So okay, to summarize what you said, editing
Yeah.
has to be contextual. Your priority should not be on the quantity of words written; it should be
Yes.
on the quality of
Yeah.
the
And you know
work that you're
how
generating.
my brain is with numbers and stuff, so that is a difficult thing. Just,
Yeah,
I don't try to um attach expectations, but the subconscious kind of
I
does.
think so.
If I'm like,
Yeah.
it needs to be this sort of size, or
I have that thing
yeah.
with formatting. Do you know how annoyed I get when it is not formatted like that? So yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
My eye twitches. It's like that is left
Yes.
aligned. That is left aligned. Why is it left aligned? Why it is not justified? So
Yes, as
yeah,
I
I
learned the hard way. I have my own things with formatting, but it's the way my brain likes it formatted. So it's like when you
yeah.
find, you're working with someone whose brain is like, no, but it needs to be yours, and it's just like, oh,
I'm predicting this is
someone
gonna
has to give, and it will be
we are
me.
both going to cry. We're gonna have tubs next to us because that is how much we're going to cry when the thing goes traditional and it gets
Oh
edited by
God,
someone
don't.
else.
Oh, I think I might just like hide
I'm
under a
telling
rock
you,
for
we are going
the
to
whole
cry
process.
tubs. We're gonna do
No.
like this. We're gonna do. We're gonna
And
keep
then,
doing this.
hey, and then we can sell our writers' tears as
Exactly.
inspiration.
We can pull a Belle Delphine instead of selling our bath water. We will sell our tears. Look at this, writer tears.
Uh, trademark, yeah. Quick, get on it.
So, okay. Getting serious again. The next question I had was how to go down rabbit holes because that is a term that we have used a lot.
How? Yeah, I don't
This
know. I
question,
just kind of trip and fall
I
or get
also don't.
pushed.
I get this question a lot. How do you? When I say a lot, I mean three people. But okay.
It's a lot for us, yeah.
It's a lot for us, exactly. It's a lot for us. So I get asked this that how do you manage to go down rabbit holes? I'm like, I'm not I'm not willingly going down rabbit holes.
No, no.
It happens. So is that
Exactly. And if you were willingly going down rabbit holes, then it would be down this specific one and that specific one. But that's not
that's
the way
not
it
really a
happens.
rabbit hole. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's more like mm,
Digging a tunnel for yourself.
okay, yeah. That's more like a rabbit tunnel.
Yeah.
Trademark new term. So someone on Reddit did this actually, like
Yeah.
Occam's razor, and now they have Occam's broom.
You're gonna have to send that to me.
I will because it's hilarious.
It
But yeah,
sounds it.
I mean, this is why I love I hate that this is what centralized platforms have done, which is certain kind of content is being pushed like on LinkedIn these days. If
Mm.
you're doing a lot of self promotion, then you'll show up on everyone's profile. Okay, like
Mm.
on feed, like you're talking about your business, makes sense. That is essentially
Mm.
what professional platforms are supposed to be about. You're talking about your business,
Yeah.
but then that shouldn't be the only definition of content. The content has to be uh, and there's no platform where we could showcase that honestly 100%, where you can literally just let go and write, except these weird platforms like Reddit or 4chan, all these
Mm.
places where you find neck beards and funny people being funny. So yeah, that's actually a place where you could go down rabbit holes. You'll read something and then you're like, this can also be a possibility. Like
Mm-hmm.
someone completely rewrote. I don't recall which platform I saw this on, but someone completely rewrote all the Disney movies. And I'm not referring to the original stories that the Disney movies are based on. Like Cinderella is an actual fable, so is Vamulan, the Ballad of Mulan, so is, Sleeping Beauty and all these
Yeah.
other things. These are actual stories that Disney stole, so to
Mhm.
speak, and turned
Yeah.
into movies and then
Mhm.
live action movies. And then
Mhm.
someone took it and turned it into alternative stories. And the interpretation on that was so spectacular. And Disney did a takedown of those stories. I don't really recall where I saw this, but I think it happened on 4chan. Not
Okay.
really sure, but this was spectacular work. The imagination involved and the kind of rabbit hole this person would have
Yeah.
gone down. You could see it. You could see the amount
Yeah.
of fragmentation of thought
Yeah.
that has happened here
Yeah.
and there and everywhere. And it was amazing. And I hate that we can't do this on every platform, because
Mhm.
on Instagram you can't do this, on Facebook you can't do that, on
Mm.
LinkedIn you can't do this, on Quora you can't do that, on
Mm.
Medium you can't do this, and that is so detrimental to creativity. And when
Yeah.
these platforms very proudly, say that we don't censor, like, yeah, you guys do.
Yeah. In your own way.
You guys are ideologue censors. You do not
Yeah.
like ideologues,
Yep.
the positive kind and the negative kind. And how do you deal with that? Because I have seen you never censor yourself, which is something I
Mm.
absolutely love about you.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. I mean, people who create original content need all the love that they can get, because they obviously ain't getting any from the audience.
Yeah.
Because they're being suppressed, right? They're being algorithmically suppressed. This is a fact.
Mm.
You can't even argue with it anymore. So
No.
how do you deal with that? How do you deal with creating original content in spite of the kind of ideology censorship that moves around? Because not to
Be-
mention stuff, but you and Miri started something amazing, right, years ago, and that was original. And that will be a discussion we can have after we
Okay,
have,
because you've lost me now, but yeah.
yeah,
um.
exactly.
So was the question, how do I keep going when with
With all
setbacks or?
sort of, yeah, exactly, with all sort of setbacks, because it seems like the game is set against you from the get go, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that comes into my mind is because I'm writing for me,
Okay.
essentially. Like I do want to create stuff that other people will consume and love, but um, yeah, for the most part, it's for myself in the sense of what I want to write about, what um, you know, invigorates me and gets my mind working, and to just something that or things that I can look back on and just be proud of for myself, because that is the most important thing in my opinion, is that, yeah, of course, as writers and whatever, we do want to have a bestseller or whatever, and reach people who authentically love our work for the originality and creativity and everything. But the most important person that you have to oh impress or whatever is yourself, because we do tend to be our biggest critics. So if you can create something that you yourself love, I don't know, for me personally, that's the ultimate in achievement. So yeah.
I mean, that sounds amazing. uh, and like, that brings in a question from my part, which is, a lot of people say this, which is you're supposed to write for your readers, and not people. Like the reason why I come up with this question is, again, as I mentioned, I'm reading Stephen King's on writing, and he is an expert at writing as well as selling books, right? And
Yeah,
what he said is ultimately you are writing for your readers. If nobody
yeah,
is going to read what you write, you know, uh,
yeah,
essentially what is the point to it all, which comes to the title of the live in the first place. What's the point?
yeah.
uh, how do you deal with that? Because I mean, I'm going to mention your books one by one. Currently I've mentioned Clinging Young, Science of Enhanced Caring, book by
Yeah.
Mel Cyrille, and I'll mention the others as well. uh, how do you carry on uh, with mainstream success and without?
Um, sorry, you're going to have to add more context into it for me. Sorry.
Okay. Essentially, context would be sometimes when young writers, first of all, on LinkedIn, this is something that you guys have to stop. Stop demanding help. Ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
I get such aggressive DMs going, "You have to help me." I'm like, "Why do I have to help you? Like,
Sure.
ask for
Pay
help."
me.
Yeah. No, no, I'm not that mean. But people don't ask for help. They demand it as if
Yeah,
just because you accept a connection request, that allows them to be
yeah,
dipshits on the
yeah,
first message they send you. But anyway, the moment the demand for help happens, I'm automatically ticked off. So I'll be rude and brash and whatever. But one of the common questions is, why isn't nobody reading my work? And they are kind of dejected by that. Like nobody is reading their work. The
mm,
context being no one is paying them for their work. I like to
yeah,
believe. I don't know for sure because I don't ask. How
mm,
how is a new writer supposed to deal with that? Because you are an established writer, but I'm
yeah.
sure when you began that was a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I, like probably most other people who first go into writing, you go into it with like what you feel like is an amazing idea and just like it can't fail kind of thing. And then the the initial results aren't what you were expecting. And again, it comes back to passion for what you're writing about, the subject matter, the story, whatever, because only with true passion for something, unless you have the kind of brain and will to push on through with something that you don't have that, energy for a lot of people, I think you need that drive that comes from the passion behind it to just be like, yeah, okay, so we're just going to keep pushing on, keep talking about this. And like I said a little while ago, didn't I, that yes, I'm an expert, well, the expert in the subject that um, my main work is on. But it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time of shouting out and having, actual backlash from it, hurtful backlash, people trashing my work without even having read it or anything, just being like, oh, you're just trying to make something up. And just being like, it really hurt. But the whole thing with me was, this subject is so much bigger than me. It's so much more important than me and my ego and my fears. Like, so with travel, with airplanes and stuff, I've been to so many places because of my work that I wouldn't have gotten on that plane if I hadn't been like, this, people need to hear about this because this is to do with the health of the species, basically. The subject is so much bigger than me and my fears, and it's perseverance and being like, well, yeah, sometimes things can be an instant hit, but a lot of the time they aren't. And, you know, are you prepared to put in the work? Are you prepared to show up over and over and over? And, you know, potentially it take years for you to end up at the point of people actually taking notice. And, you know, the domino effect has gotten large enough that it kind of takes care of itself, which is what I was saying about the whole thing with during lockdown. I was already well versed in Zoom for a good couple of years, if not more, before this whole thing. And I could have easily capitalized on all of that. I had so much in place that, bam, ready to go straight away. But I wasn't in a place mentally or health wise to be able to sustain any of that. But it served as a protective factor in that once I reached the place where I was good to go again, it's easier to pick up where I left off because I'm known, you know. But it didn't happen overnight for me.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. So you have to push on, essentially, is what
Yep.
you're trying to say.
Yep.
Yes,
Which is
persevere through
why I will
the.
keep saying, go back to what is it that you're passionate about, and then write about what you're passionate about, because that will give you the drive, and you know will sometimes help sustain you when you just want to give it all up and just be like, can't do this. Yeah,
Makes
it's got to
sense.
be some kind of intrinsic motivation there to
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah. I absolutely agree. As I was telling Sudeshna once, I agree is such a sloppy answer, but sometimes, there is nothing you could
Yeah.
say besides that because the point is so spot on. I agree is the only answer you can come up with, or the point made is so stupid. I disagree is the only. So yeah, amazing, amazing. So essentially, these were all the questions I had for you. Oh, oh,
Well,
oh!
that's good because I'm about to die. It says I've got 30 seconds of battery left.
Oh my God! Okay, so going to give our goodbyes in advance, I suppose,
Yeah.
because you're gonna go poop.
Yep.
So thank you so much for coming and
Thank you for having
inspiring
me.
us. Of course, you're gonna come on more, I suppose. Uh, Explain us characters and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
fascinating to have you.
absolutely. I'd love it.
We have an alien debate with Nada that is definitely happening live for sure in the coming future. So yeah, can't wait to have you then. And I think she's gone. So we're gonna we're gonna just take the broadcast off. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you have any questions about this, leave it in the comments and I'll make sure that Mel answers any query, if any, that you had.